What is up, everyone? It's Quinn here, and in today's video, I'm going to be going through my Week 2 top 40 running back rankings, splitting these guys up into different tiers. If you enjoyed the video, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe. But let's just dive right into it. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the guys in the first couple of tiers, because regardless of how I have them ranked, they're going to be locks in your lineup. So in tier 1, I have Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, and Jahmyr Gibbs. With all the injuries to the 49ers offense, CMC might touch the ball 35 times in this game. They are going to force feed him in a solid matchup. CMC's my RB1. Derrick Henry coming off a monster game. Jahmyr Gibbs, kind of a clunker from the Lions offense, but super involved as a pass catcher. He's still a tier 1 running back. And then also Bijan Robinson. I think I forgot to say his name. Super involved as a pass catcher week 1. I'm thinking he can get things going on the ground better than we saw in his matchup against the Bucs. Then looking at tier 2, I have Chase Brown, Saquon Barkley, and Bucky Irving. Chase Brown's just going to have really strong usage. Same thing with Bucky Irving. Wasn't super efficient in week 1, but the role was there for Bucky. And then for Saquon, this is just a tough matchup. The Chiefs allowed the fewest points per game to the running back position last year. They really held the Chargers run game in check. So Saquon a little bit lower than normal, but obviously still going to be a lock in your lineup. You always start your studs. Then moving into tier 3, I have Ashton Genty, Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, James Conner, Kyron Williams, Breece Hall, and James Cook. Ashton Genty didn't have an amazing fantasy day, but his usage was fantastic. He played 54 out of 63 snaps. He took 19 of the 22 running back carries, and then he saw both of the running back targets. So the role was awesome. Eventually that efficiency is going to come, and he's going to have some monster games. Then I have Josh Jacobs, pretty much where he's going to slot in pretty consistently. This might not be like the greatest matchup for him, just because I think they're going to be larger favorites in other matchups, but the Packers are a top team. They're still favored in this matchup here against the Commanders, and Jacobs is just going to have a really strong weekly workload. Then I have Devon Achane. Although the Dolphins, vibes are pretty awful, the offense looked pretty much brutal in week 1. I still think Achane is a fantasy running back 1. His usage was strong. He took 7 of the 9 carries, 4 of the 5 targets. Obviously, that's not like a huge workload, but in terms of like the proportion of the running back opportunities, it was solid. He's going to be their clear-cut running back 1. He has that receiving upside. He has the big play upside. I'm not, full-blown panicking here on Devon Achane. Then for James Conner, wasn't a little bit more of a split with Trey Benson than he was last year, but this is a really nice matchup here, week 2 against the Panthers. The Cardinals have the 6th highest implied point total. They're 6.5-point favorites, and James Conner took 100% of the goal line snaps, so he should still have the touchdown upside in that Cardinals offense. Then I have Kyron Williams, really strong usage in week 1. There had been a lot of talk about Blake Corum, Jarquez Hunter. It was still the Kyron Williams show. I think it's fair that he is a top 12 running back. Then we have Breece Hall. I'm a big fan of Breece. He had a really impressive week 1, 19 carries for 107 rushing yards, 4 targets, 2 receptions, 38 yards. He did get a goal line touchdown vultured by Braylon Allen, but he still saw 4 of the 6 goal line snaps, which is fairly encouraging moving forward. The Jets are 6.5-point dogs. I think we could see Breece Hall deliver a pretty solid receiving game here in week 2. And then the last guy in this tier is James Cook. Never going to dominate in terms of, his snap share, his overall usage, but he's going to be efficient. He's going to have a ton of touchdown upside on one of the best offenses in the NFL. Now, looking at tier 4, I have Amarian Hampton, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, and Travis Etienne. For Amarian Hampton here, he had really strong week 1 usage, 80% snap share, 61% route participation. He took 15 of the 16 running back carries and saw 17 of the 19 opportunities. Now, maybe we see a little bit more Najee. He's kind of, working his way back from the eye injury, but I still view Hampton as the clear-cut RB1 here. I think in a better matchup against the Raiders, he can deliver, his first really strong fantasy game. Then I have Jonathan Taylor. This is a tough matchup here against the Broncos. Kind of unfortunate week 1 with Daniel Jones scoring 2 rushing touchdowns, but this offense is still going to run through him. He's going to get solid volume. Seems like he'll be, fine, healthy enough to play in this week 2 matchup. Then I have Alvin Kamara, strong usage as you'd expect, wasn't as involved as a pass catcher as I think he will be normally. I actually think you could make the case that all the injuries to the 49ers are kind of a negative for Kamara, because I think you want to get in those trailing game scripts where he can be super involved catching the ball out of the backfield, but he's still going to be, getting the vast majority of the opportunities here for the Saints. mid-tier RB2, I think is fair. And then Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby was traded. He was coming off a monster week 1, 16 carries, 3 targets, solid usage. I do think we're going to see a little bit more Tank Bigsby, maybe also LaQuint Allen, but as of right now, Travis Etienne should be the locked-in top dog in this Jaguars backfield. Then in tier 5, I have DeAndre Swift, Javonte Williams, Tony Pollard, and Chuba Hubbard. This is kind of like the gross workhorse tier where it's like not the best running backs, not the best situations, but the usage is going to be there. DeAndre Swift saw all 17 carries out of the backfield, was targeted 5 times. That's amazing usage. Javonte Williams, 77% snap share and route participation, 20.4 PPR points, scored 2 touchdowns. He looks like the Cowboys' clear running back 1. Tony Pollard also dominated the usage. Obviously just on like a rough offense here with the Titans. And then Chuba Hubbard also, Panthers offense didn't look great, but he still handled a large portion of the running back opportunities. Then moving into tier 6, these are like, the sketchier starts, back-end RB2s, high-end RB3s. We're going to start off with Travion Henderson. Not a crazy workload in week 1, 5 carries, 6 targets. I do think we're going to see him start to pull away from Ramondre Stevenson, see him in there more on like third down opportunities, 2-minute drill snaps. I think as he gains the trust of, the offense, the coaches, he'll start to emerge in that area. Then we have J.K. Dobbins. Nice usage in week 1, took 16 of the 22 running back carries, was targeted twice, took 5 of the 7 short yardage snaps, which would lead you to believe that when they are getting those goal line opportunities, J.K. Dobbins will be that running back, at least in the short term. And then I will talk about these Seahawks running backs together. I have Zach Charbonnet as my running back 25, and then Kenneth Walker as my running back 28. I do prefer Zach Charbonnet going into week 2. The opportunities were very close. Kenneth Walker, 13 opportunities to Zach Charbonnet's 12. The snaps, weren't insane one way or the other, but Charbonnet did lead in snaps and routes. What really separates them, at least through 1 week, is the specific touches and opportunities that Charbonnet was getting, where he took all 3 of the goal line snaps, he took 5 of the 7 third downs, and he took 9 of the 12 2-minute drill snaps. Those are like the most valuable opportunities for running backs, right? Third downs, getting those receiving opportunities, goal line, the touchdown upside. That's where we saw Zach Charbonnet get into the end zone. And so as long as those are going to Zach Charbonnet and the snaps, routes, opportunities are all fairly competitive, Zach Charbonnet is going to have the edge in this committee. I don't think it's set in stone, but with what we saw in week 1, I have a tough time not ranking Zach Charbonnet ahead of Kenneth Walker. Then we have Jaylen Warren, was actually outsnapped by Kenneth Gainwell, but he did lead the backfield in opportunities. He was more efficient, and he took all of the goal line snaps. I think he is the number 1 here. Not necessarily like this workhorse, but should be the top running back here for the Steelers for fantasy, at least early on in the season. Then we have Tyrone Tracy. Pretty rough fantasy day, but from a usage perspective, like he was the clear RB1, 74% snap share, 69% route participation. He took 10 of the 15 running back carries and then 3 of the 5 targets. Already talked about Kenneth Walker. Wrapping up this tier with David Montgomery. I do think there's some reason for concern if this Lions offense kind of continues to struggle, and not that they're going to look as bad as they did in week 1, but if they're not getting these early leads and kind of blowing teams out, these are game scripts that do kind of favor Jahmyr Gibbs, who's going to be more involved as a pass catcher in these competitive game scripts, and that could hurt David Montgomery. I still view him as like a mid-tier RB3, but, not a great start to the season for him and this Lions offense. Then moving into tier 7, I have Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Isaiah Pacheco, Jordan Mason, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and Dylan Sampson. We'll talk about Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason together. I was someone who thought that Aaron Jones would be able to go into the season operating as the clear-cut running back 1. Jordan Mason would mix in, but that this would be Aaron Jones's backfield. That's really not what we saw in week 1. Jordan Mason actually out-carried him 15-8. Now, I don't think that's something that's set in stone every single week. I think it's probably going to be, a game-by-game basis where if Aaron Jones has the hot hand, he'll get more opportunities. If Jordan Mason has the hot hand, he'll get more carries. But I do like that Aaron Jones has that receiving upside. We saw that's what led to him having a strong fantasy game in week 1. So I still do prefer Aaron Jones, but the gap is certainly closing between those two. Then at running back 31, I have Austin Eckler. Going up against the Packers, I do think this is a game script that could favor him. The Commanders are 3.5-point dogs. Eckler's usage was fine in week 1, 47% snap share, 54% route participation, saw 9 opportunities. He's going to get involved as a pass catcher. And at least at this point in this matchup, I still think he's like the slightly better option out of this backfield. Then we have Isaiah Pacheco, very disappointing week 1. He was someone where his range of outcomes were pretty wide heading into the season. After 1 week, it's not looking great. Only 5 carries, 3 targets. That was the exact same usage as Kareem Hunt. You're hoping maybe he gets involved near the goal line, has some touchdown upside. But this is not a great matchup here against the Eagles. I just wouldn't feel super comfortable playing Isaiah Pacheco this week. Already talked about Jordan Mason. Then we have Bill Krosky-Merritt. So he took 10 of the 20 carries out of the backfield, made the most of those opportunities, 10 for 82 and a touchdown. Don't love this matchup here against the Packers, but he's going to be, a key part of this backfield. He'll get involved on a good offense. I do think he's going to continue to build. Early in the season, I don't know if I love playing him in my lineup, but if you're desperate, like back end RB3 is where I have him. And then I have Dylan Sampson. Now, we're still not quite sure what's going to happen with Quinshon Judkins at the time that I'm recording this. He was meeting with the NFL on Wednesday, was not at practice. It doesn't seem like he's trending towards playing week 2, and even if he does, I don't see him having a massive role. But for Dylan Sampson, you're really kind of just betting on the receiving usage. He was targeted 8 times in week 1, caught all 8 of them for 64 receiving yards. And in this matchup against the Ravens, where I think they're like 11.5-point dogs, he's probably going to be involved as a pass catcher, and I think that's where you're getting your production from. And then moving into the 8th and final tier, I have Nick Chubb, RJ Harvey, Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Benson, and Jerome Ford. For Nick Chubb, he does look like the running back one to start off the season for the Texans, but it's just like, how valuable is that role? This is a really bad offensive line. He still only had a 51% snap share. He doesn't get involved as a pass catcher. And this is not a great matchup against the Bucs, who really kind of stifled the Falcons' run game, both Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. So I think you're hoping for like 15 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown, but the floor is just very low, with the touchdown upside somewhat limited, and then also just not having pretty much any receiving production to count on. So he's my RB36. Then I have RJ Harvey going up against the Colts. The usage wasn't great week 1, but I think what was encouraging is that he did have one of his signature big plays. He had 7 opportunities, was still able to rip off a 50-yard run. So you're hoping he sees a jump in usage, maybe eating into some of the Tyler Beatty opportunities. But as of right now, tough to fully trust him in your lineup. Then I have Ramondre Stevenson. Split the usage pretty evenly with TreVeyon Henderson, but I just think TreVeyon Henderson's the better running back. I think he has a better opportunity to grow his usage. And so you're looking at like RB2 on a Patriots offense. If you're desperate for a running back or a flex, I could see it, but certainly wouldn't love him in my lineup. Then I have Trey Benson, RB2 for the Cardinals, but he did have an expanded role in week 1, 8 carries, 1 target. This is just betting on the matchup here against the Panthers. Potential game script where they're leading, racking up a ton of volume. You're hoping he can get, 11, 12 carries, maybe find his way into the end zone. And then wrapping it up with Jerome Ford. I'll say if Quinshon Judkins does play in this game, then I probably wouldn't have Jerome Ford here. And then I guess you're getting into like a Kenneth Gainwell, maybe like a Bashal Tutin type. Like those really don't feel great, but I don't know who else you're getting into. I mean, maybe it'd be Quinshon Judkins, but I can't imagine he has a massive role in his first week here. So as of right now, it's Jerome Ford. Hopefully this last year you're not forced to play these guys. But that is going to wrap it up for this one. If you enjoyed, do me a huge favor, hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you all for stopping by. Check out the wide receivers if you haven't seen it yet. And I will see you guys in the next one.